guys, this is Cathy, and this is Quilting Central Podcast. Are you ready for today's episode, ladies?
Yes, Angie from the Quilting Connection.
Julie from Two Chicks Quilting in Ganado, Texas.
And I should say Cathy from Fabric Badge in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So there we go.
They may forget.
Oh, maybe. Even though it's right here, because I'm in uniform, ready to start the day. It's all going to be good. Mm-hmm. Today's episode, I'm super, super excited about because this is a journey that all of us have been on. And it's a fun, I was thinking about it all last night and everything as we talked about the subject we're going to talk about today of buying your first sewing machine. And A, it made me feel old. Two, brought back some amazing fun memories. And was just a great journey that I can't wait to share. So how about you guys?
Yeah. Sure. And a lot of, I think we're going to have a lot of tips for you as you grow in that journey, you know, maybe from your first machine to your second machine and so on. And as you grow through your quilting journey.
Or sewing journey, yeah.
Yeah, our sewing journey, yeah.
Right, because we want to get some other people. I just heard a great stat today that Gen Zers, almost 80% of them are getting into crafting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good.
I'm so excited. So we want to make sure that those Gen Zers get that perfect starter machine, and we'll talk about that later. But let's go ahead. Angie, do you have a quick story about your first sewing machine?
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm an anomaly, and I actually touched a long arm and learned to sew on a long arm before I ever touched a sewing machine. Because I was 15 when my mom and my grandma opened our shop, so I didn't really have that experience on a sewing machine. So my first sewing machine that I took home was my great grandma's. It was from Sears, and it was like that greenish color, and it had a like hard case over the top of it. I think that machine probably weighed like 90 some pounds. It was so heavy and just this beast of a machine. I don't even remember how I learned how to like thread it. It took me a ton of time to thread it. My great grandma did still have the full manual with it too. And
Wow.
I think she bought this machine like in the 50s. She had it forever. So it was a workhorse and stitched great, did what I needed it to do, but then I had said to my mom at one point, I'm like, I think I need a newer machine. what can we do? So I found a bigger machine. It's made by Handy Quilter, but it is technically, I don't know if I should say this, I'm gonna get in trouble, but it is technically a Janome machine with the Handy Quilter sticker on it, and that's the machine that I use still to this day. So I've had that machine now probably going on at least 15 or 16 years. So
fun fact about Janome. So there's only so many factories in the world that make machines, right? Because setting up a factory is expensive. Fun fact about Janome is they have made a machine for every other sewing brand, but nobody's made a machine for that. So that's okay. A fun fact when I talk about Janome. So it's kind of interesting because you can kind of see that same look.
Yes. Yeah, so no bells and whistles, just a big heavy beast. I mean, it could technically be a weapon too, I guess. It was so heavy. So,
if you can chunk it that far.
yeah, but it did what I needed it to do, and it was a perfect starter machine. I think we still have it somewhere. It has not been used in many years, so it probably needs a good cleaning and tune-up if we were going to try to use it again.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes. What about you, Miss Cathy?
Mine was a great story. So I lived on my own in Denver for a couple of years, married my husband, and started this military spouse career. And we had just moved from Virginia to LA, had our first kiddo. And then on LA, when we were, first and second lieutenants, just very tight on money. And here we are in LA. We're living on base housing, which it was very dense, but it was one of our most connected bases that we've ever been to, because all of us, we were in a fourplex, and then there's like condominiums all around the playgrounds, different playgrounds. So of course, all of us moms with our little people would always go out to the playground. You could always tell them when it was nap time because the playground is completely empty, right? We'd go out in the morning, we'd have lunch, we'd take a nap, we'd go back out in the afternoon, we'd go back in, have dinner. It was just so much fun. And one of my dearest friends, I would call her, Priscilla is a soulmate of mine. And we don't talk as often as we should, but when we do talk, we are back to where we were from the very second. Our daughters are best friends, our kids, it's my kids, the closest that they have to that neighborhood friendship, because we always, our husbands are in the same kind of career, kind of fun stuff. And she was into sewing. So she started taking me to the fabric stores. Here I'm carrying Emily and we're going to do this fabric store. So I went and I got my first sewing machine, which I hemmed and hawed to spend, a couple $100, because that's a lot of money back then, right? And my husband's like, oh, we're literally in a 2-bedroom, tiny little thing. Where are we going to put it? It sat next to my bed. I got a Necky that weighed 5,000 pounds. Basic straight stitch machine, right? Just as I think it's right. I looked at the house this morning for it. I think it's here at the store, and hopefully it's here at the store. But it was just so much fun to sit with Priscilla and talk about sewing and making things for our children. So I started down the whole path. I wasn't a quilter. I was doing garment sewing. So I had Emily, and then in LA still we had Laura. And then we moved to Colorado, and I had Anna. And then the Brummels, my best friend Priscilla, moved to Colorado, which was great because we're back together again, and we're sewing, going into stores together, making clothes, doing all of those fun things. As a matter of fact, we went to Mesa Verde at that time, and then we had Mark. I had Anna, and then I had Mark, forgot my Maggie. So I had my 4 girls, made Maggie when she was baptized. We had all of the same outfits. It was pretty yucky, but okay, look back at it, going, oh, what was I thinking? I thought that was cute. Anyway, we went to Mesa Verde as a family. I had 5 kids. They had 6 kids. We had a 15-passenger van where we'd all could go together, and we made bright red hats, orange hats, bright orange hats with the thing down the back, so their necks wouldn't get all sunburned. And all of the park rangers at every park basically would start taking pictures of the kids, because as they kept coming out of that van, 11 kids coming out of that van in all orange hats. Like, we were like the people, the park rangers were taking pictures of us. But my I had so much fun on my Necky machine making hats and doing all of that fun stuff. So I still have it. It's a gentle, fun reminder. It was just so much fun to be able to pick up sewing, because my kids can make the house dirty in nanoseconds. Yes, they can make the clothing dirty, but at least I can wash it and make it look pretty again, right? Mm-hmm. For most time. So it was just such a, the sewing and the sewing machine, the sound of the sewing machine. Who knew later I'd get into this quilting and then fall in love with the long arming part. And now I just love the long arming part, but still that rhythm of that sewing machine, there's just something so soothing about that. So my story was not as fun as most, but it brought a lot of memories back of Priscilla and I going shopping at Hancock's down in LA. It was crazy.
Yeah, the therapeutic part of sewing always amazes me, that we don't always realize that that's what it is. But so my story is a tad bit different. So my mom owned a fabric store, not a quilt shop, a fabric store. She did a lot of apparel, had apparel fabric notions. She made drapes for people. And she was a Singer sewing machine dealer. She had, 3 sewing machines set up, 3 different models. Now when you become a dealer, you have 15 models for every brand, but she had, like, I think 2 or 3 at all times setting up there. And I never will forget. So this was in the late 70s. And I was 8 or 9. I can't remember exactly, but either 8 or 9 when she got this new top of the line first electronic sewing machine by Singer. And I was fascinated. Like, I loved that thing. And until then, I sewed on one of her machines. And I don't remember what model it was, but I know y'all are going to remember. It was brown, and it had these little discs that go on it that that's how you chose your decorative stitches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one she let me sew on. But when this machine came to the shop, I was like, man, you just push a button and it just goes to that stitch. And I was fascinated with it, and I would beg and beg and beg to use it. And she's like, no, it's just a display. You know, we have to show customers so we can sell this machine. We don't get to sew on it. And I'm like, well, that's not fair, right? So how can I get this machine, Mom? I really, really want this machine. And she's like, well, you know, you would have to buy this machine. You can't just take it home. And I said, okay. So I sat down, and I literally at 8 or 9 years old was reading the manual and learning different things about this machine. And I learned how to make a chain stitch. Now, if you just a chain of thread. Now, what do you do with back in the day, you know, when they made a nice blouse and you used the little pearl buttons and didn't have a buttonhole, you needed the little loop, right? So that's what the purpose of that was to make those little loops of thread to be your button loop, right? So I learned how to do that. So everybody that came in that she was showing that machine to, I stood there. If I was at the shop and I was like, can I show them? Can I show them? Can I show them? And she's like, oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. She wants to show y'all something. And so I would show them how to make the chain. Right. And I was just like, I wanted my hands on this machine so bad. And so my brother, who was 6 years older than me, had shown a pig at the county fair, and he got paid. And I found out about, you know, I kind of put the puzzle together, and I was like, wait a minute. He had that, he was getting his pig for the next year at this time. And I'm like, last year he took that pig to the fair and he got a check. Like he walked out of there with some money. Okay, so how can I do that? So I go to my brother and I'm like, hey, can I get a pig and take the pig to the fair and sell it? And he's like, well, you have to raise the pig all summer and you have to do all the work, and then you can take it to the fair and sell it. And I'm like, okay, so can you get me a pig? And he's like, you got to talk to Mom and Dad. So I go to Mom and Dad and they're like, yeah, right. Like, okay. So my dad tells my brother, because my brother bought a show pig. And if you don't know the ins and outs of showing animals, there's a difference in a show pig and a butcher pig, right? So he went and spent money and bought a show pig. My brother worked for this farmer and they raised butcher pigs. And so my dad says, just go ask Mr. Smith if he has a little pig big enough for her to have. And, I don't even know if the man charged us anything. It might've been $20, So we get this pig and I raise this pig all summer and I take it to the fair and I sell that pig. I was a happy camper. Now, all summer, my brother probably wanted to kill me because that was not in my wheelhouse. I did not enjoy doing any of that. I complained the entire summer, and he probably did most of the work, but I got my paycheck and I walked into my mother and I handed her that paycheck and I said, I want to buy that sewing machine. And she sold it to me.
No.
Oh, yeah.
So raising a pig. So I always tell that story because I like to make people understand that when you really want something, by gosh, there's a way to get it.
Yes, there is. Yes.
Figure it out, right? Whether you have to save your nickels until you have them all saved up, or you go raise a pig, one or the other, you can figure out a way, right? I mean, so that's how a pig bought my first sewing machine. But I sewed on that machine till, gosh, Donnie and I were married probably for 10 years before I bought my next machine. And anyway, it was still a great machine. I could probably pull it out and use it still to this day. But anyway, that's how I bought my first machine. But I think we want you guys to kind of take from these stories and let's think about some things you need to think about before you buy your first machine or upgrade to a new machine.
So can I tell you about my second machine?
Oh, yeah.
That my second machine we get here and I get back into the bug, and I think I need a new machine, right? Because now we're majors going on lieutenant colonels. I have a few, just a little bit, but I mean, I have 8 children, and so we've always been Doug and I have always put our kids first in their education and college and all of that great stuff, right? And we've done some stuff, and we drive old cars, and we squish into a house. It's all those good things. So I went to Joann's and I bought a Singer, but I had 0 support with it.
Yeah.
And
so
it was something, that's something to think about first and foremost.
Yeah. So one of the best advice, some of the best advice I ever heard somebody give, I saw this on Facebook not too long ago. There was a lady that was actually looking for a machine, and she's not right next door to us. She's pretty far away. And she showed up at my shop and she told me what she was told on Facebook. And she was reaching out in a group and asking, what's the best brand to buy? What's the best, best kind to buy? And the lady said, the first thing you need to think about is, where are you going to get support?
Yep.
What shop, what machine or quilt shop do you enjoy going to that's going to give you support and education? And that's where you need to buy your machine. Because even if they're right next door, they may not be the best option for you. So that's what led her to us, because she loved our shop and knows that we're always there to help her and all of that. So that's the first question I think you need to ask yourself. And to know there's a difference. Angie, you want to explain it? Angie, you don't sell domestic machines.
We don't. Yeah. And Rick doesn't even service them. So if you are in the southeastern Wisconsin area, I have to give a shout out to Sew and Save. They are in Racine area, and Jim, the owner, is just like the nicest man ever. I take my domestic machines to him. And a lot of people in our area do. And it is because of that service and because of that support too. So
and let me backtrack just a little bit, not to disrespect Joann's. It's just that their business model did not support repair and service. Nothing against Joann's and buying a machine there, but I didn't think about it when I bought it, that aspect of support, service, and education at that time.
And it's just the same thing, any big box store,
right.
Amazon, right. Walmart, any big box store is not going to give you that support you need. It comes down to the simple things like, you get your first machine, you don't know. I saw something on a Facebook post the other day. A lady had an old metal bobbin in her machine that I know it didn't go in that machine, and she was struggling with, why isn't this sewing, right? So it's just the little things that you don't realize that you need that support. You need that person you can pick up the phone and call and say, okay, I'm having this issue. Can you point me to the right direction? And we're going to say, okay, unthread your machine. First of all, do you have the right bobbin in? Do you have it threaded correctly? We're going to be there for you.
And we don't mean to say, do you have it threaded correctly, to second guess you. I incorrectly thread some of my machines still to the day, and I don't see it sometimes, right? We're just asking the question to take a deep breath.
But the just having that person to call, that real person, the real person to call. We all know the frustration when you can't get that real person on the phone. So, and there is a difference in quality when you buy a machine from a big box store sometimes and a machine dealer sometimes. There's certain machines that we as dealers don't sell in our shops because they are sold, they are the mass produced, sold machines. So that
Julie, do you mean like with the same name, same sticker?
Yes.
Same brand?
Same brand. Okay. It's just different models. So there's one particular brand, and I don't want to mention brands, but there's one particular brand that, it is sold a lot in big box stores and online. And the models that are sold through those avenues, we can, as a dealer, sell them. But some of the models that we sell, even if we do sell them online, cannot be sold or purchased by the big box stores and the online giants. So there is a difference in those. You can look up a model online and you can see it on Amazon and you can say, okay, I want to order this. So it's just, in this day and age, more and more models, we can sell more and more models as a dealer online, but there are a lot of models that you can't see. You can't get any pricing online. You have to come into the shops.
Yes.
So, and there's a reason why you need to come into the shops. Okay. So a little bit of what we do is we sit down and talk to our customer, and we want to know what you're doing. What do you enjoy sewing? What do you want embroidery? We kind of do a little interview to see what it is that you want to get out of that machine. So that's something that, the big box people are not going to do. They're just going to let you get it off the shelf, right? You don't know what you're buying. You don't know if that machine's going to do what you want to do with it. Perfect example, a bag. A bag, sometimes you make a bag and it's got some major thicknesses to sew through. Mm-hmm. Can that little machine that you just bought off the shelf, at the big box store, even attempt to sew through those thicknesses? So there's questions that we like to ask before we pick a machine.
Right. And there's a reason that those big box stores has it for a lower price. It's not necessarily the same quality insides. It can look the same on the outside, but the insides, there's a whole price point of what things cost, right? So we want things that last a little bit longer, and also a technician right on staff to help you with some of your questions and to take care of that machine that is a certified person for that machine. Yeah. I don't know about you, Julie, but we really, if it's a brand we do not carry, we tell them to go to X, Y, and Z store that carries that brand, because we're not certified, and because it's opening up that machine. If our techs, even though they're certified tech, they're not certified in that machine, and then that can void your warranty.
Right, if it's still under warranty, correct.
Right.
Yeah. But just back to there are differences, and a lot of people don't realize that. So I always like to explain that, because I get that question. Well, why is it $100 over this machine's $100, but I walk in here and the cheapest machine I can get is, $400. They're not apples to apples. We'll just say that. So we do like to explain that. But some of the features that different machines have also factor in. So, number one, what are you going to do? What are you going to make? Are you a beginner? Or have you already been sewing a while and you've outgrown that machine that you have? So if this is your first machine, we don't want you to outgrow it in a matter of, a year, and you're back in here saying, well, now I wish I would have had that, and I wish I would have had this. And so you're money ahead if you just kind of figure out all those things that you want and start somewhere. You don't have to always start at the top and you don't have to start at the bottom, so there's a lot in between that you can get, that you can grow with.
So what would you guys say are the best things to think about? Are you making baby quilts? Are you making king size quilts? Then that helps determine what throat size you want. What would you say is a good list of things to think about?
Well, I'll just start with what I ask first. I ask the person if they're a quilter or are they a garment sewer, because right there it makes a difference on the plate. Like if you want a free arm versus not a free arm, because some of our machines don't have that free arm. So I kind of ask that. And then the other question is a bag maker. Are you one of those three? What do you like to sew? And then I go and I start breaking down. How about you, Julie?
Yeah, that exact thing. What do you make? I have a lot of people that will come in, and I had one not too long ago that she likes to do a lot of work with denim. She makes bags out of old blue jeans. And, so there's certain features that I'm going to recommend to her that I'm not going to recommend or worry about to tell this lady that all I do is piece. All I do is piece quilts. So, there's a lot of different fabrics that they sew on that we kind of need to know what they're working with.
I'm sorry. So like as a bag maker or a denim quilt, what are those features that you would say they would
You
need?
want something that's going to handle thicknesses, something that's a little more heavy duty. You know, I'm going to try not to talk about brands, but there are brands that handle thicknesses better than other brands. There are models within those brands that handle thicknesses better than other models. So, you know, we kind of know which direction, because we sell multiple brands. So we know where to guide them through that process. One of the features that, if you want to get into features, that I enjoy on a couple of different brands is the automatic dual feed. So like having a walking foot built in. That is one thing that I like to, if they're working with thicknesses, if they're working with, even if they're just piecing, it's a great feature to have when they're putting their binding on their quilt. There's that built-in dual feed, or AccuFeed, or whatever that brand calls it, is a great feature to have, you know, for you. So, Cathy, what's one of your favorite features that you like to point them to?
Well, when a 20-something comes in, now grandchildren, I tend to go down a little bit lower, but 20-something, I try to find their forever machine at a reasonable price, things that they will never outgrow, that they can take to classrooms, they can take on trips with them, to retreats, but yet is still in that reasonable price range to start out, because I want this machine to be their forever machine, especially with some of the brands that have some longer warranty, you know, like warranties and different things like that. Like I like to start with, if you are going to be quilting, that the needle ends in the down position. If you're gonna, if you want a thread cutter or not a thread cutter, is that a big deal to you, or is it not a big deal to you? The one thing,
speed control,
absolutely. And then I guess the thing about throat space, Angie, that you talked about versus a king size versus a baby quilt, when you're piecing, you still can get most quilts through, even in a small throat space. It's when you come to the quilting part, if you're quilting on your domestic machine, that's when it gets to be a little bit on the, oh, that's kind of a talent right there. Throat space tends to be a little bit more real estate. When you're talking real estate, you're talking a little bit bigger prices. So that's one of the things that's important to you. We need to talk about those price differences, because there is a big difference between, an 8-inch, a 5-inch throat space versus a 13-inch throat space, right?
So as when we talk about outgrowing something, so I always, the thread cutter, you mentioned the thread cutter, speed control. Speed control is huge to me, because if you've ever tried to learn how to sew, or you remember back when you tried to learn how to sew, being able to control the speed with your foot and concentrate on what you're doing here at the needle at the same time, it's like rubbing your tummy and tapping your head at the same time.
Yes.
Right. So it's hard to navigate that. So especially with kids, I want to make sure they have speed control, so we can turn that speed down, and then we don't have to worry about what we're doing with our foot. We're just flooring it. Right.
Right. You just put the pedal to the metal and it goes uber slow.
And it goes, as slow as you have it set on that slider. So speed control is number one. I don't even know that I carry a machine in my shop that doesn't have speed control. So that is number one for me. Another feature that we didn't mention is a hover feature. So what hover means is when you have your machine set with the needle to stop in the down position, it will lift that foot up just ever so slightly, just enough for you to pivot that fabric. That is a wonderful feature to have if you like to do applique, if you're quilting on your domestic. It is a great feature, because you're not constantly having to lift that presser foot up and down with the handle. So if you get to a model, and that is a few models up, that's one of those features that's going to bump you up to a little bit pricier machine. but it's in that conversation that we have, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the features that I see people coming in and they're like, I don't know what it is, but when you're sewing on that machine in your videos and the foot goes up and you can move your fabric, that's what I want. And so that is probably the number one feature that I see people coming in wanting because they've seen me use it. So hover is another feature that we think about.
Right. Then we could get into the embroidery only, combo machines, all of that great stuff. There's sergers. We haven't even touched on sergers. I love sergers. Sergers are fabulous if you are a garment sewer. Even if you're a quilter, sergers are starting to make their little breakthrough in quilting. I have a customer who just serges when she pieces.
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions, and I like to suggest to people, okay, sit down and write down what you want in a machine, and then come talk to us, because then we're going to sit down and break it down, and we will find that perfect machine for you. Yes. And if your perfect machine is the top of the line, that's all fine and good. But if you like Cathy said, you got to start somewhere. But what is that saying? You have champagne taste, but your
beer budget, but a beer budget.
So, there are ways to do financing if that's the case you want to use, but if not, then, and you want to, I know I want this, but this is what I can afford. Okay, let's find that machine that's still going to be useful to you and still going to serve a purpose for you, even when you get to the point that you can't afford that top of the line and you decide to go get that top of the line, or even the near top of the line. So that machine that can be taken to classes, can be taken on retreat over to your friend's house when you want to go hang out and sew together. That's not big and heavy. So that's kind of how we navigate that purchase with our customers.
Yeah, because we've even seen a lot of the times, like if you think, oh, I'm just going to get this one because it is cheaper and I'm just going to save my money and get that. And then you end up wanting something more later, you're going to end up spending more in the long run because now you have outgrown it and you're ready for something bigger. So just try to keep that in mind, I guess, right? That's a good tip.
Yeah, keep it in mind, because like I said, not all machines are created equal. So, find someone at a shop that's able to help you and navigate that, especially if you are, and even with my customers that are not new to sewing, they've been sewing their entire lives. They may be on their 5th or 6th machine by now, but nobody's ever sat down and talked to them about the features they need to look for. And so then they're kind of, when they get to class and they're like, well, why does your machine do that and mine doesn't? So those are the kind of things that I like. I love to have those conversations with our customers.
And make sure you can test drive. When I bought my machine at the big box store, I couldn't test drive it. Right. I mean, we love spending time with our customers, having them actually sew on the machine.
Right. And most of the time, the models, like we may not have every model that brand carries in our shop at any one given time, but there's always a machine that's either very comparable to it, or, it's just like, for instance, the model right above it or right below it, we can say, okay, if this model that you're looking at that's in your price point has this feature and this feature missing off of it from the one I'm showing you. So we can compare those for you, and you will get to sew on the machine that is going to sew like that.
Right.
And do you guys normally, oh, sorry, Cathy. Do you guys normally provide fabric for them to sew on, or do you want them to bring fabric to stitch on the machines?
We have lots of fabric to sew on, but I will tell you, I have had customers that are, for instance, at a bag maker.
Right.
She sews on, I forget what machine she had, but it was a straight stitch machine. And she's like, I'm just not happy with it. I'm just not, it's not handling the thicknesses the way I want it to. And I want to try this other brand's straight stitch machine. And I talked her into going between a straight stitch machine, and another heavy duty machine that also allowed her to do decorative stitches and zigzag and all those things, right? And I said, bring all your pieces. So she makes a lot of the Biani bags. So she brought little pieces of where she was sewing a zipper in, where she was putting binding on, where she was, sewing the box in the bottom or something. She brought all these little scrap pieces in to test. And she sewed on both of those machines over and over and over to figure out which one she liked the best. And she ended up going with the machine that was able to do the zigzag and the decorative stitches, because it sewed just as good as the heavy duty straight stitch for her. And she really liked the fact that she could do more with it than just straight stitch. So yeah, I would say it depends on if they're sewing on just quilting cotton, we have fabric. But if they're doing something specific, then they should bring that with them, because that's going to be a game changer for them.
And a good shop will let you bring your own fabric to sew on. And to test it, because we want people, if they're working on cork or they're working on 5 layers of, they're doing dog collars or whatever, we make sure that we ask them to bring their stuff so they can see what that's like, because that's important.
Because it makes a difference in what they're sewing on.
Right. So customer service, I think is super, super important. And being there with questions and to help you. And some days we just have a bad threading day and we just need a little talk down off of the edge, right?
Yeah. It's so easy to flip that bobbin, when you have that drop-in bobbin and you don't realize it. And that's, or you thread your machine with the presser foot down and then you're having issues. And so that's one of the things that we can talk you through. I see it, all the time, and it's not anything to be embarrassed about, right? Like, no, we all do it. So
I'm probably going to do it later. It's all good.
So tell me, guys, I'm really good at changing my long arm needle. Not so great at changing my domestic needle. I usually change it when it breaks. Oops.
I told a class here recently, that little pack of needles that comes in your machine, they do sell those separately.
Oh, good, great.
Yeah. And you can buy them, just the needles. You don't have to buy a whole new machine to get another pack of needles. You can buy them separately. It's important to change your needle frequently.
Frequently. I would just say whenever you start having frustrations, I would start with, like, I control, like you said, Julie, to rethread your machine, change that needle, rethread the machine, because that's like the control alt delete on your computer.
Yeah, clean it. So they say, the quilt police say, you should change your needle at the beginning of each project. Now, let's just talk about that right quick. Now, needles is a whole other subject, and we're going to do a whole another podcast about it, but just real quick. This little pack of needles right here has a price tag on it of $5.39 for 5 needles. It is the hardest working part on your sewing machine, and it's the cheapest part. I have never understood, but I've been there. Believe me, I've been that one going, why is my machine going boom, 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 boom? It's because it's dull needle, and it's not, the point is not going through your fabric well.
Right.
So, changing that needle frequently. I like to, I sew on a Bernina, so I have the big bobbin, and when I say big bobbin, it's big. It's bigger than normal. So I get probably, I'm going to say 5 of regular thread amounts from a regular drop-in bobbin on this Bernina bobbin. I think it's more than that, but I'm just going to say 5. And I change my needle every other bobbin. I do a major cleaning every other bobbin change. So that means I take it all, I take my hook out, I take my needle plate off, I take the needle off, and I clean all the fuzzies out.
And what are you cleaning with?
What am I cleaning with? A little brush.
Okay.
No vacuum. We're not going to blow into. No blowing stuff in. No blowing in.
No, yeah. And we're going to do a whole thing on that. Let's do a whole podcast on cleaning because that is important. Like and some machines need oil, some machines don't. Kind of knowing
Yep.
if you need to oil your machine or not. We talk about it a lot because we are Berninas need to have oil, and I sew on a Bernina, so I talk about that a lot. But other brands don't necessarily need that oil. So that's how often I change my needles. So I would say, every 5 to 10 bobbin changes you need to, which that's kind of hard to keep up with. So I would definitely go to, okay, if I just pieced a whole king size quilt, let me put a new needle in.
When in doubt, change the needle.
Yeah, they're cheap. You've got $1 a piece. So and use a good quality needle that is made for your machine.
Yes.
Yep.
But machines are wonderful and we love them.
And there's so much we can talk about when it comes to, like the needles and like the thread. And we're going to do those in separate because there's so much we can't cover it all in one episode. So we're going to break those apart into smaller little tidbits for y'all.
Yeah.
One more thing to think about when you buy your machine from a local dealer, whether it be your next door person, the closest to you, or maybe one city away, depending on your customer service, really listen to what they offer besides just giving you the machine and walking out the door. What do they offer that helps you, that's a money value? So think about that as well, that there's some money value into what they offer between cleanings and service and education. So make sure you put a value to that as well, because that's super important.
Yeah.
And just quick, how often do you guys recommend they service their domestic machines?
Once a year.
Once a year, unless they're a prolific quilter every day, I would say even maybe twice a year, just depending on, if you're, some of our customers, wowzers, they do lots of quilting. And again, that's where that hook area, that needle and making sure everything's aligned nicely, that's where all the magic happens. Just give some love to your machine. Just think about taking care of it, because then the longer it will last.
Right. And there's certain, we can do little general maintenance to it, but when they service your machine, they actually take the cover off and they get inside and get in the nitty gritty. So they oil and grease those parts that we can't get to. And that's at least once a year. Some brands say every other year, like every 2 years, but I will tell you, it's a whole lot easier to remember to go once a year.
Yes.
And your machine will be happier than not doing it.
Right. It's about, yes, because when you start getting frustrated, that's not when sewing cannot be fun.
Yeah.
So it's all about making it fun and enjoying whatever machine you have, because every machine is magical in what it does.
Yeah. And you have to start somewhere. So if you're ready to upgrade or you're ready to get started with your first machine, give us a call or reach out to your local shop that's there to help you and start exploring, because that's the fun part, seeing all the stuff that's the possibilities that are out there for you.
Absolutely. And nothing, it's so much fun seeing customers that purchase machines from us coming back in all excited about the projects that they completed, and it's just so much fun. So it's such a blessing to be able to see the progress that some of our customers are making.
Yeah, for sure. Because that is something I will say that just, they'll be struggling with something, a problem. And that's what brought them in to buy a new machine. And then the next time they come in and I'm like, well, how's that going? How did that bag come out? And they're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like, I love this machine because it made it so much easier. So yeah, that it is very rewarding for us as retailers to be able to help our customers, because we've told you guys before, that's what we're here for. That's our why. Like, we want to help you be successful. So
you're right. I want every sewing machine going and happy.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of our tips on purchasing a domestic machine. And I know, Angie, you had a lot of questions in here, but when we get to other parts of this journey, Angie's going to have a lot more to say. But yeah, that's all we have as far as that goes today. But I think that it is a great start to start thinking about your journey and where you're at in that journey with your domestic machine, and what the possibilities are out there for you.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We look forward to the next episode. And everybody, I hope you have a phenomenal sewing day.
Yeah. And don't forget to send us, questions, comments, tell us about your first sewing machine story. We love to hear from you guys. So thank you so much for watching.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us here at the Quilting Central podcast. We've had an amazing time today sharing today's quilting stories, tips, and ideas with you.
Absolutely. Whether you're stitching your first quilt or your 50th, we're so glad to have you as part of this wonderful quilting community.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's chat, we'd love it if you could leave us a review or share the podcast with a fellow quilter.
You can also find us on social media for more quilting inspiration, updates, and even behind the scenes fun.
And remember to send your quilting questions or stories our way. We love hearing from you. You might even be featured in a future episode.
Until next time, keep stitching, keep creating, and keep spreading the love of one quilt at a time. Bye for now.
Happy quilting!
Happy quilting!
Happy quilting!